Hey guys, happy Thursday. I am on here picking up where I left off yesterday. I'm hoping that this live recording is a little bit better. I had to re-record yesterday, but I am recording now from my mobile phone to see if that makes a difference. So fingers crossed, don't have to record this again. Anyway, so yesterday I did a live stream on some of my favorite productivity apps, and with the coronavirus and everything going on, I thought it would be a good time to share with everyone some of my tips and apps and things like that that I really like and recommend, especially because even if you aren't a business owner, chances are at this point, if you are doing any kind of work on a computer, you are probably working remotely if at all possible with your job. So these things can be really handy, and even if you're an employee, you can leverage these tools to be more productive when working remotely. So the first one, I'm looking at my notes here. The first one I want to talk about is using your calendar, and that might seem like a kind of an obvious one, but there's a lot of different calendar apps that you can use. My favorite one is Google Calendar. I have set that up for a calendar with my team. You can do multiple calendars within a calendar. You can color code it. But one of the best things, regardless of the calendar that you use or prefer, one of the best things you can do is block off time. I talk about this in one of my courses, the Success Mindset Workshop course. But one of the things that I recommend and that I've found to be most productive is blocking off an amount of time, but giving yourself some buffer room. So, for example, let's just say you need to, you have a goal of writing 3 blog posts, and you think it's going to take you a couple hours by the time you write it, review it, edit it, get it up and everything like that, or schedule it. So if you think it's going to take you 2 hours, maybe on your calendar that day you block off 2.5 hours. And then once you hit or reach that point in the day where you have this block of time that's blocked off, and usually the blocks of time I'll block off in the beginning of the week or at the tail end of the previous week. So tomorrow being Friday, when I'm recording this video, that's when I'll probably work through my calendar for next week and block off some time for the various things I need to get done. Now, when you block off the time, once it reaches that point in the day where that time block has come up, I want you to focus your time and energy not on the amount of time you have to get the task or project done, but the task itself. So what I mean by that is if you have a goal of getting 3 blog posts done in that 2.5 hour window, make it a goal to get those 3 blog posts done and focus on getting 3 blog posts done, don't focus on the fact that you have 2.5 hours to do it. The reason I say that is there's a lot of people that will focus and say, I have 2.5 hours to get those 3 blog posts done. And 9 times out of 10, what happens if you make that the focus, the amount of time you have, you end up not being as productive in that time frame, and you actually either won't get all 3 blog posts done because you're taking your sweet time, or you are kind of not being as productive doing those blog posts as you would have if you would have just said, okay, this is what I need to get done and I have blocked off this amount of time to do it. So focus, when you block off time on your calendar, focus on the goal of that time block, not the time block itself. I hope that makes sense. But my favorite tool is Google Calendar. I love the sharing aspects of it. I love that there's different categories, colors, even the reminders and settings within Google Calendar. And it also integrates with Outlook and some of the other existing calendar platforms out there, which is really nice. And then also yesterday I'd mentioned Spark as an email management tool. There's also a lot of email management tools that will integrate with, Google integrates with Google and Gmail, many times it'll integrate with the calendar aspect of that, the Google Calendar aspect. So there's a lot of great integrations with Google Calendar. Also, there's a lot of, for example, Zoom, which I talked about yesterday for communication purposes. If something is scheduled on Zoom, it can automatically integrate with Google Calendar, where if you have a meeting, it blocks off that time on your calendar automatically. So really, really great stuff there. There's other ones, but that's just my personal favorite. It's free if you are on a regular Gmail account. And if you are on a G Suite account or a professional account with Google, that's on there as well. So it's up to you on how you want to do that, but you can schedule team meetings. You can block off time for yourself personally. You can share calendars where multiple people can add things in, or see what your availability is, create attachments, notes, all that kind of stuff. So that is one of my favorite time management apps, but there's also a few others. There's another one called Toggl, Toggl, and that's a time tracking app that helps track your day and helps you see where you spend the most amount of time. Now, where that's helpful is this doesn't necessarily have to be a specific project or a client, but it can really track, it can track all types of stuff. So if you take a break, you maybe had the intention of taking a 10 or 15 minute break, and all of a sudden working from home, distractions come up, and maybe you ended up taking, instead of a 10 or 15 minute break, all of a sudden it's a half hour because your kid's screaming, or your kid needs help with their homework, or whatever, with all these people homeschooling right now. But you can track all this stuff across multiple devices. They all sync up, so you can start and stop your timer from your phone. You can do it on your computer. You can create visual reports weekly, monthly, yearly, that kind of thing. And it really helps you keep an eye on what's important if you are an entrepreneur, what your billable hours are, and where you're spending time elsewhere. Now you might say, well, I have a project management space. We do here too. And we use the timer for that so that we can make sure that we're adequately budgeting the right amount of time for the client, and whether it's an estimate or what have you. But I am not tracking my personal time or non-billable time in the project space. So something like Toggl is really handy because it really helps me see where I'm spending my time when I'm not focused on a billable project or a billable task. That Toggl is available on iOS, Android, the web, Mac, Windows, Linux. So it's pretty much across the board. Can help you track your time and productivity. And if you take a peek at it, you might be surprised where you're wasting time each day, or where you can maybe even be a little more efficient. So that's the second one. Another one is called Todoist. And Todoist will help you manage your tasks with real simplicity. It is kind of a to-do list app, so Todoist makes sense. But all you need to do is go in there into the app, create a task. For example, call so-and-so tomorrow at 10 a.m. And it will schedule a reminder for you to do that the next day at 10 a.m. It'll file it into a task into whatever section that you create. And then you can easily organize and prioritize and even delegate some tasks within there, and so things get done in a timely fashion. So it's nice not just because you have a task and a due date, which a lot of project management spaces have, but it's also nice because you can on the fly add things to your to-do list, create a due date, and then actually have that reminder automatically sent to you. Where sometimes with project management spaces, you can put in a due date, but then you actually really have to, you don't get that like trigger to automatically remind you. And again, this goes across multiple devices. So iOS, Android, web, Mac, and Windows. Sorry, Linux, you're not on there, but I think that covers most people. And if you are Linux, you can always go to the web version. And then sometimes what I'll do with Todoist is if I have something in the project management space, ours is web-based, so I can take the URL of the task or the project that I need a reminder on, that needs to be triggered to me, and I can take that URL and put that in the task description in Todoist, and then it pops up as a reminder to myself. So that's kind of fun. There is one that's, I'm an Apple person, iPhone, iPad, computer, the whole bit, but there is a app that I want to mention, and it's for Android only. So if you are an Android user, boo on you, I'm just joking. But this is one I thought I'd mention for you. It's something called Daywise, Daywise, Daywise. And if you're the way this one works is if you're inundated with dozens or even hundreds of notifications, which if you're really busy, chances are you're getting all kinds between text messages, emails, all kinds of crazy notifications. It can be challenging to really keep your focus. One way you can do that is to disable notifications, which are kind of nice. I'll do that sometimes. But Daywise allows you to turn off most notifications and keep them on for only the most essential apps and contacts. So you can specify which contacts or which apps specifically can notify you on your phone. It will work in the background. It monitors also your daily habits and will suggest that you snooze notifications for certain apps if you are getting them too much or you're not using the apps enough. I wish that Apple had something like this, but Apple does have something called Do Not Disturb, and you can turn the Do Not Disturb setting on your phone, and you won't get any notifications. Unfortunately, there aren't any customized notifications in that way. Then the very last one I want to mention, and again, there's a lot of good ones. So as you watch this video, if you're watching the replay and you're not watching live, please do comment or even shoot me an email if there's some that you found helpful for this category, because I want this to be helpful to the group and I want everybody to be able to use each other as a resource. So if there's something you really like, leave a comment so the rest of the group can check it out. Everybody is different and different apps are better suited for different people. So the last one I want to talk about is one called Focus Keeper. This one is available on Apple, Android, and web. And it was created kind of around the idea of the Pomodoro technique. I'm not actually very familiar with it, but it's more of a time management method that used a timer to break down your work into intervals. Some people have found this to be really helpful, and it kind of goes back to blocking off time on your calendar, but this is a little bit different where you work in intervals of 25 minutes at a time with a short break of 3 to 5 minutes in between. So what Focus Keeper does, and I think also the kind of the thought process behind this is instead of, I think naturally we are procrastinators just by nature. So I think the theory here with this is these 25-minute intervals, you're not focused on the 25 minutes, you're focused on getting what you need to get done in a snappy way during that 25-minute period. Anyway, so the way it works is there's 25-minute intervals of work, and then you have about a 3 to 5 minute break in between, and it basically kind of tracks these intervals for you. So you can start it when you begin work, you'll be notified when you need to take a short break, and then when you need to begin work again. So a lot of people say it helps them relax and maintain energy while they're at work, because after 25 minutes, some people kind of hit that breaking point where they're like zoning out. So that's what it's supposed to help with. Not sure if you've done that before, but if you have, again, leave a comment. Let anybody know, even if you don't use the app and you've tried that method, please do share. But it is available in the App Store, and there's also some other similar apps to it. But I thought I would include that one too, since I've heard some great things from people in the group and some of the people I work with about that app. I haven't personally used it, but I wanted to recommend it because it is something a little bit different. And like I said, everybody works a little bit differently and is efficient in different ways. So those were the few that I wanted to mention today. Again, I'm going to go back through here. Google Calendar, Toggle, which is a time tracking one, Todoist, which is for to-do lists, Daywise, helps kind of manage notifications so you're not distracted on your phone. That's for Android only. And then Focus Keeper is that 25-minute interval work structure. So I hope you guys found this helpful today. Please do leave any comments that you have, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.